Welcome to Something More. I'm your host, Bob Duvall, and I'm here today with Pastor Morris Graves and his daughter, JaCynthia Bailey. Now, Morris and I get to work together every day because he's here at Sid Roth's It's Supernatural, part of the Partner Relations Department. Morris, let's go back a bit. Before you were a believer, you were married, still married, to Denise today. But you were married back then and had an affair, had a child. The product of that affair was JaCynthia.
Yeah.
Morris, you grew up fatherless. You knew what it was like to not have a father figure in your life.
Right.
How involved were you with JaCynthia at that point?
Totally uninvolved. And it wasn't a very, the sad thing was it was a one-time thing, and Jackie was pregnant, got pregnant. It was one time. How does that happen? And then because I was just a really low-life type of guy, and I just refused to have any type of relationship with this child.
So what was the extent of your involvement with JaCynthia?
I paid child support.
Paid child support. That was it.
Because I didn't want to go to jail. So I paid the child support.
All right. A little bit later after that, you and Denise had a son, right. Justin. Then in 1992, things got really interesting.
Right.
You were convicted of second-degree murder, sent to prison for 15 years
right.
for killing your cousin's husband
right.
in just a fit of rage.
Right.
So before you went to prison, between the time you committed the crime, before you went to prison, something happened with you spiritually.
Right. So I'm in jail, right? And I'm trying to get out. Denise and I are trying to get out, and my lawyers told me, Morris, the crime is so heinous. They've got the things you said in front of witnesses.
So this is when you're in jail, but before you've been sentenced or anything like that, right?
Before I'd been sentenced.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I said, man, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. Best thing you can do is get out on bond. And that wasn't happening. No one was going to help me get out.
Right.
So I did, out of desperation. It was October 31st, 1991, that I got on my knees in that jail cell in the wee hours of the morning while the other three gentlemen were sleeping. Just, Lord, I don't know if you're real or not, but I'm desperate, and if you'll help me get out, then I'll go to prison for the rest of my life. The gentleman, there was one Christian guy that was in there, and he was telling the other guys, you need to serve the Lord and not turn to the left or to the right. That's the only prayer that I really knew. I'd never been a churchgoer. And I just said, I'll go to prison, serve you for the rest of my life, won't turn to the left or to the right.
So 92, you're going into prison,
right.
Facing this 15-year sentence.
Right.
And at this point, your son with Denise, Justin, 2 years old.
Right.
What did you tell Denise when you first went into prison?
Well, first of all, I understood that being in prison and having a family outside of prison, just from my background, that was not going to work. And it's, I needed to focus on doing the time. And so I just asked her to, divorce me and go on about her business.
Wow. Well,
find someone else.
What did Denise respond to that?
She should have responded, been overjoyed to do that. She should have. Our marriage was really in a bad place. So, but I know now it was God that prompted her heart to sell all our stuff and move in with her mom and wait on me. It was God. It wasn't that it didn't have anything to do with, oh, I'm so loved this groovy guy.
Okay, let's jump forward a little bit. You're in prison, and one day you're praying for Justin,
Right.
your son.
Right.
And you hear God's voice. You hear him telling you something. What did he say to you?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. And it was almost as if it was an audible voice. And all he said to me is, son, you have 2 children. That's all he said, and
He said, he's reminding you have 2 children.
2 children.
You were praying for Justin.
I'm praying for Justin. My daughter, oh man, I tell you what, I can't even believe that I did that. But she wasn't even a thought in my mind, man. How evil is that?
Because she wasn't part of your life.
She wasn't
at that
part
point.
of my life, and but that reminder that God gave me in that moment did something to me. And I'd been studying the Bible, and I understood that God's mandate was that part of what He would be doing in the last days is turning the father's hearts back to the children, and the children's hearts back to the father. So it became very obvious to me that I needed to find my daughter and begin to build a relationship with her, and that became a major priority for me. Again, it's God moving, and you don't understand that, but it is God moving, right? So
you took that to heart, and even before you got released from prison, you began to reach out. So
right. Well, right during the break, JaCynthia reminded me. I'll let her share it, since she reminded me of my mom. Well, my mom actually, from day one, which I didn't know until later, that she was keeping up with her.
Okay.
And that was how I found her, through my mother. When I told my mom what God was saying, what I felt like God was sharing with me, she gave me the contact.
So you were actually sending some gifts?
I started. She remembered that I did.
Well, I will say that God is just so powerful, because at the time I was just losing my mother. And so just to have another parent say, hey, I'm here, it started the journey of me opening up my heart. And so I would receive these little gifts, and my dad is such an artist. He doesn't really use it much, but he is a very wonderful artist with paint and pencils and all of that. And I remember receiving this white handkerchief that had a drawing on it. And I don't know where it is today because we've moved so much, but I remember treasuring it as a child,
Wow. Now, you did get an early release, and so you're out of prison, and you actually began to go visit JaCynthia. So, JaCynthia, what were you thinking and feeling when he would come visit? I mean, you didn't know Morris. You didn't know him as a father. I mean, what are you thinking at that point?
It was all very exciting to me. I lived kind of a sheltered life with my grandmother. My mother had died when I was 10 from AIDS. And so it was exciting. It was exciting to have someone new come into my life. I didn't know what to expect, but he really gave me time and stepped in, and we kind of eased into the relationship.
Now, you not only would visit her, but you'd kind of include her on family activities and things like that. But there came a point, Morris, where you realized you needed to do more. You needed to bring JaCynthia into your home, into your family. Why did you come to that conclusion?
Well, she may not want me to share this, but she had got the lead role in the play. The young lady is incredibly talented. She you remember that, gotten the lead role in the play, and so I'd call her every day when she got out of school, and okay, why is she not staying after for rehearsal? And she'd give me all these excuses, right? And so finally I had a meeting, got all the teachers together and had a meeting with her, and found out she was struggling in school. that was why I made that decision.
Now, JaCynthia Morris has told me you weren't struggling because you didn't know what to do or whatever. You're bright. You've got it together. Why were you struggling? Why were you kind of flunking out at that point?
Yeah, I believe that at that time I was just really caught into pleasing my grandmother, being there for her. She had lost her child, her baby, at a young age, and I just really felt a heavy responsibility to pour into that relationship.
And you really reminded your grandmother of her daughter, your mom.
Yes, so much. Yeah, in so many ways. And so that burden and that responsibility was just heavy on my heart. And so I really didn't care much about anything else, and I really didn't see beyond that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, Morris, at that point, of course, you're a believer. Denise doesn't know Jesus yet, your wife, at that point. You're talking about bringing JaCynthia into your home.
Right.
What does Denise think of that?
Well, obviously, she didn't want that. And my son was struggling with it too. I mean, he's an only child, and now all of a sudden he's got this big sister coming in and looks like he's taking from him. And not only that, I felt this need to really just pour into JaCynthia. And I was also amazed at how she just took it upon herself to pull her grades up. I mean, you never had to tell her or threaten her. It just wasn't her. She wasn't wired that way. Every change she made it on her own, and it was amazing to watch.
But that was after she came into your home.
After she came.
So, but Morris, it wasn't just Denise that kind of felt uncomfortable with that idea, but your grandmother, very attached to you, and so Morris, I mean, why not just leave things be? I mean, Denise is not comfortable with it. The grandmother doesn't want to let JaCynthia go. Why did you push to have her join your family? I mean,
well, I remember having a talk with her and the grandmother crying, and JaCynthia sit there and said, I want to stay with my grandmother. Mm-hmm. She made the decision in front of all of us. And I waited and got her by herself, and I said, okay, JaCynthia, if that's what you want to do, I'll honor that, but you need to let me know what you really want to do. And she, with nobody else around, you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
She said, well, down. So I'll come live with you. And so, man, that was rough because seeing her hurt her grandmother like that, I know it was rough on you. It was really hard. And her grandmother nobody ever knew we had that conversation, but that was a difficult time.
Now, JaCynthia, when you came into the home, were you able to tell, that there was all this kind of friction going on?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of friction between me and my brother, me and my stepmom. But I didn't know it at the time that I was, of why I was operating this way, but I really just made it my mission to not be bothersome to anyone, to really do what I could to fit into the family. And I longed for a relationship, that mother-daughter relationship, and so I just did whatever I could to make things easy and take that burden on myself when I went into their home. So.
And actually, Denise did end up becoming a believer in Jesus, and that kind of changed the dynamics and so on. We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, I want you, JaCynthia, to minister to the viewer about overcoming rejection. If there's anybody who has the right to have felt rejected, it's you, and you've had a breakthrough, and you're able now to minister that to others. So come right back in just a moment.
As you've heard me say on this program about how grateful I am for being a part of Sid Roth Ministries, I love praying with and for our partners like you. I'm asking for you to call us and say, Morris, I'm going to commit to praying for Sid and his ministry. I'm also asking you to give the largest gift possible to help Sid reach a massive number of unsaved Jewish people with this glorious gospel. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, God promises to bless those who bless the Jewish people. What blessings do you have need of? Family, salvation, health, more glory, finances? Hey, the heart of God at this moment is Jewish souls. Catch God's heart and watch His favor increase in your life.
When you call with your gift of any size, we're going to give you Morris Graves' brand new and exclusive audio CD teaching, The Supernatural Power of Agreement. You're also going to get this unique new eye-catching prophecy-making pendant. It is crafted in the shape of Israel in gleaming gold and silver-colored plated metal. The Israel pendant has prophetic significance. The center shape represents Israel today. The outer shape of the pendant is 10 times larger than the center border, the comparative size of the land God promised to Abraham for the homeland of the Jewish people in Genesis 15:18 through 21. Not only will this pendant remind you to pray for the salvation of Israel, but also it will be a reminder of God's testimony of faithfulness to you and every believer in Messiah.
To get both my brand new audio CD teaching, The Supernatural Power of Agreement, and the Prophetic Israel Pendant, just call and give the best possible gift that you can to help Sid Roth reach unsaved Jewish people with this glorious gospel. Your gift will help Sid to continue to do lectures in the supernatural in Israel and the nations of the world. Your gift is helping Sid with Project 77, where we have already sent over 3.5 million evangelistic books they thought for themselves to unsaved Jewish people around the world. The book has 10 different testimonies of Jewish people who received Jesus as their Messiah. Many Jewish people are getting saved. Your gift helps us operate our METV. That's Middle East Television Network. This network is available in every home in Israel, reaching Jews and Arabs, plus its broadcast signal reaches a potential audience of over 500 million. Your gift helps us produce the It's Supernatural TV program. Plus, your gift helps us produce original and exclusive evangelistic TV programs to reach the Middle East.
When you call with your gift of any size, you will receive Morris Graves' audio CD teaching, The Supernatural Power of Agreement. Do you have prayers that have felt like they've gone unanswered? Are you needing a supernatural breakthrough? Through this audio CD teaching, Morris will teach you how to pray prayers that hit the mark and get powerful results every time. Reveal the hindrances which rob you from receiving answers to your prayers. Teach you about the power of coming into agreement with someone in prayer.
I also included a prayer of impartation for you to penetrate heaven and begin to receive God's answers for every one of your needs. So make that call with your best financial gift and get both the Prophetic Israel Pendant and my exclusive audio CD. It is going to bless you.
Don't miss out on getting Morris Graves' brand new and exclusive CD, The Supernatural Power of Agreement, and this beautiful Prophetic Israel Pendant. Yours when you give your best gift possible to help Sid Roth reach an unsaved Jewish person. This is an exclusive offer for our It's Supernatural audience. Yours for a donation of any amount. Shipping and handling is included. Refer Project Redeemed. Call or you can send your check to Sid Roth. It's Supernatural, P.O. Box 39222, Charlotte, North Carolina 28278. Please specify offer Project Redeemed or log on to sidroth.org. Call or write today.
Welcome back to Something More. I'm your host, Bob Duvall, here with Morris Graves and his daughter, JaCynthia Bailey. Now, JaCynthia, we talked about you coming into Morris's home, and that really had a dramatic impact on you. You went from like struggling, flunking out in school, became a straight A student. You became president of your class. And at the age of 14, you really made a strong commitment to Jesus. So things are all coming together. And we talked about how life started for you, but how about now? What is your life like now? You married?
I am. I'm married to a pastor. We pastor a church together. And then I have my own ministry that God has given me for women and couples. And then we have 4 kids together.
Wow. And you have a successful tech job as well.
Yes, I do. God is
I don't know you have time to do all of this.
I don't know either, but God has just been truly, truly good to me.
Now, I have to say this real quick, because you mentioned 4 children. You gave birth 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
I wasn't sure you were going to be here. Morris was like, oh, no.
He knows me well.
You gave birth to a son. Tell me your son's middle name.
His middle name is Morris.
Now, JaCynthia, because of where you've come from and the victory God has brought into your life, you are now able to minister to women, give them hope. In fact, you and your husband also minister to couples about marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
Coming from, really, you had a fatherless beginning, lose your mom at a young age, and look what God has done in your life.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Now, I want to have a little bit of time, JaCynthia, if you would talk to that viewer right now that is struggling with some of the things that maybe you struggle with rejection, and give them hope and pray for them.
Yes. Rejection is such a monumental thing, because it doesn't really matter the type of life you have. It's a thing that's sad and subtle, and it can just creep in by the words that someone speaks over you, or the words that you speak over yourself that you come into agreement with. And so for me, rejection came in while I was in my mother's womb. And I lived under the shame that she had as a teen mom. I lived under the shame of her mother, and then the shame of my father, who was a married man. And so I lived my life from that place. What I found is that because I have experienced that, I draw and overcome it. I draw a lot of people who have rejection issues, even though they don't know it. And so even my husband, who has a completely different background from me, he had rejection issues. And so sometimes we really have to look at the root of where lies are being told to us that we come into agreement with. And when I started this journey with God, one of the first scriptures that really spoke to me was a Psalm of David, and it was Psalms 51. And rejection is really just a heart issue. And so I love that Psalm in verse 10, it starts out with, "Create in me a clean heart, O God." And so I began to pray that over myself every single day until I felt God really take my heart and lift certain things out and offer, I would see people in different ways. It allowed me to extend grace to others, to see the hurt in my stepmother, to see the hurt in my brother, and to give them grace. And so if you are struggling with rejection from other people rejecting you, from other people saying things over you, the lies that you believe about yourself, my prayer is that you would really surrender your heart to the Lord and ask Him to come in and create a clean heart in you, and to ask His Spirit to fill you and to come into His presence so that you can be changed and renewed, because that is how rejection is overcome, by the renewing of your mind and the surrendering of your heart.
Have you seen a number of women have breakthroughs as you
Oh, yes. Oh, it's been absolutely tremendous. Through the process, God has given me this book that I wrote called 21 Days to Getting Back. And really, the concept is getting back to the place, stripping all of the lies that we tell ourselves, and getting back to that place where God created in the Garden of Eden, where he wanted to walk with us and have relationship with us, and believing the things that he said about us from the foundations of the earth. So
Now, Morris, you said yes to God after you heard him say, oh, you have 2 children. He reminded you about JaCynthia. You could have said, oh, no, my wife's against it, or her grandmother's against it. But you said yes. This is unfair to you. Very quickly, about 30 seconds, pray for that viewer right now that needs to say yes to God.
God was reminding me of a destiny that he had for a little girl that would become this woman that he would use in such a very powerful and beautiful way. And I'm so thankful to him that with him asking me or reminding me of this little girl, that he also empowered me to move forward and do things to help her or put her in a position where she could blossom into the woman of God that he called her to be. I'm just thankful, and I want to encourage anyone that if you have it in you, if God is dealing with your heart about someone else's destiny, even your own, there's such power in you rising up and coming in agreement with what God is placing in your heart. It's not easy, but it is, as you see, very, very rewarding.
Yes, what you have seen right here is a miracle. And God's no respecter of persons. He'll do a miracle in your life. Don't let rejection get in the way. Say yes to what God has asked you to do. And join us again next time for something more.